Hi everyone, my name is Zeest and today I'm going to teach you how to tell time on a clock like this. So as you can see, my clock isn't the perfectly proportionate kind of clock that you would normally see in real life, so please bear with me. But also use your imagination when I tell you that this is, they're all equally spaced out. But anyway, so let's get started. Right now on the clock, it is 3 o'clock. So that is because the shorthand on the clock, so the clock has two hands, sometimes it has three. Right now we're working with two. So the shorthand, which I've drawn in red, is pointing at 3. And the longhand in blue is pointing at 12. That means that it is 3 o'clock. And when when this shorthand, when this longhand goes to, let's select this one, this longhand, oops, I have to erase this. So when this longhand goes here to 1, it's 3:05. 3:05. And the reason why is because we count the clock every second. There's a second hand that turns around the clock, and that's the third hand that I was talking about. The second hand, it turns around the clock, and once it makes a full turn, every second it makes a full turn, 1 minute passes. So when 1 minute passes, this hand that was here on 12 is going to go from here to here. That's 1 minute. So these green little dots that I've drawn represent 1 minute passing. So 1 minute passed, it goes here. Then the blue arrow would have gone here after this the second clock. The second hand went all the way again. The second minute passed, 3 minutes passed, 4 minutes passed, and now 5 minutes passed. So it started with 3 o'clock. I'll actually draw that here. So it started with, so this is o'clock. It started with 3 o'clock, and then after 5 minutes passed, it went to 3:05. And then 5 minutes passed, and it went to 3:10. The reason why is because 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. And then so on. If you know the table of 5, it's 5, 10, this 5 more minutes passed, 15, 5 more minutes passed, 20, 5 more minutes passed, 25, and then 5 more minutes passed, 30. So I'll stop here for now, and kind of demonstrate that on the clock here. So right now, erase this, and I'll erase this actually. Let's see what 3:30 looks like. So we saw that 3 o'clock, the shorthand was at 3 and the longhand was at 12. And now what we'll see is that when it's 3:30, the shorthand is going to be somewhere over here, while the longhand is over here. That's 3:30. So the reason why it's 3:30 is because now first when it was at 3, the shorthand and the longhand was at 3 o'clock, that was just the beginning of the third hour. So oh my gosh, so that was the beginning of hour number 3, right? So the clock keeps on going on because time never stops, right? So when the clock reaches 3 and it's 3 o'clock, the 12th hand is here, and the long hand is here, and the short hand is here at 3. And as the longer hand goes down, the shorter hand also moves. The shorter hand always moves at a slower rate compared to the longer hand. So the longer hand was moving every minute. Every minute it moved from here to here to here to here to here, and every minute it went by until 30 minutes went by, and it went here, by the time 30 minutes went by, the shorthand, which was here, moved like this. So it just moved a little bit. It moved halfway between 3 and 4. So that's what, and then by the time it reaches the longhand reaches back to 12, which means a whole hour will have passed, we move from 3 to 4 completely. The shorthand moves from 3 to 4 completely. So right now it's at 3:30. And then we have 30, we have 35, oops. Right, so if the longhand moves more, like further towards 7, it's 35. Then leave 5 minutes, 40, 5 more minutes, 45, 5 more minutes, 50, and then 5 more minutes, 55. And so when the longhand is here, for example, at 11, it's 3:55, right? And the longer hand is at 11, and the shorter hand is very close, like it's right here. It's nearly at 4, but it's not at 4. It's going to be at 4 when the longer hand goes to 12. So it's going to be at 4. And the longer hand is at 12, just like it was at 3 o'clock. Only now it went all the way around the clock. Oops. It went all the way around the clock. And now it's at 4. There we go. So that's some of the basics of how to read a clock. So for instance, if it's let's say it's 10:55, right? Where would the longhand be? So the longhand would be, this one's easy. Longhand is always easy if you know your table to 5, if you know that this is 5, it's 10, 15. So longhand would be at 11, right? Because it's exactly at 55. So I would draw the longhand over here. And if I said 10:55, the shorthand would be at 10. However, 10:55, that's a trick question. It wouldn't be at 10. It would be almost at 11. The reason why it's not at 11, so let's say here, is because it's not at 11 o'clock. So it's not 10:59 or 11 o'clock. So the clock, it's because it's 10:55, it's still within the 10th hour, right? But however, it's closer to 11. It's 5 minutes away from being 11 o'clock. And so after 5 minutes, this hand would be here instead of here. Right now it's there because there's still 5 minutes left. It's still in the 10th hour. The second it's 59 and then 1 more minute passes and it's 12 and the big hand reaches 12, that means now it's 11 o'clock. So let's do another example. Let's say it's 6:40. 6:40. So where would the shorthand be? So we can automatically say, hey, the shorthand, it says 6, it would be at 6, and the longhand 40. So if you don't have these numbers, you could just count. You could say 1 is 5, then 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So it would be at 8. The longhand would be at 8, right? Easy to say that, which honestly, if you were doing it on paper, it would still be fine. You could say 6:40, shorthand on 6, longhand on 40, perfect. However, realistically, no. The shorthand needs to be a little bit after 6, but not very close to 7 either, because it's only almost halfway there. So for instance, if it was 6:30, the shorthand would be somewhere here, and the hand would be on 6, right? 6:30. However, since it's 6:40, it's a little bit closer to 7. So a little bit not in the middle, closer to 7. And then as it reaches 45, it's like way like smack in the middle of this area right here. And then as it reaches 7, it'll go to 7. The shorthand will be on 7 and the longhand will be on 12. So hopefully that clears up how to read a clock just a little bit for you. And I suggest you, if you have a clock at home, or you could just draw a clock the way I did on paper or something like that, and just keep doing examples. So for instance, I'll actually write down some examples here for you. I write down, try and find 1:30 on the clock. Or try and find 9:25, right? Or try and find 8:16, not 15, or 11:59. And I'll make some here. Try and find 2:47. Try and find 6:30. And one more. Try and find 12 o'clock. That should be simple enough. So I'll do one example with you here. Let's do 8:16. So we have here, let's erase these right here. Okay, so 8:16. So where would the shorthand be? The shorthand would be on 8 because the shorthand represents the hour and the longhand represents the minute. So it would be on 16. Now where's 16 over here? We don't see any 16 because these are all, we have the numbers for the hours inside the clock, and outside the clock in pink, I've written the numbers for the minutes. However, there's no 16. We have 10, we have 15, we have 20, but there's no 16. The reason why is because you can write down all the numbers, but that would just make for a messy clock or messy example. So you need to manually count. So for example, this 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? Exactly at 3, it would be 8:15. And then 1 minute after, you have to remember, each of these dots represent a minute passing by. That's why the longhand is for a minute. Each of these hours represent a minute. So right after 15, this one is where it would be 16. So that shows you 8:16. And if you remember, the shorthand does move a little bit. And so it would go from 8, like directly at 8, to a little bit, just a little bit. Let's say it goes to one more minute hand after 8. So that's 8:16 for you. Okay, I hope that helped you learn how to tell time, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.